Hey guys, how's this going? It's Fluffy Man with the Pizza Department. Today I'm going to cover Nightmare Dungeons 100 and how to better complete them in a co-op situation, so like using two people. I'm a decent player. I don't claim to be like professional, but I do like to employ teamwork where I can to make life a little bit easier, and Nightmare 100 is definitely a way to do that, especially if you're having trouble clearing it solo. Go ahead and grab your favorite duo partner. Let's go through some information that'll better help you with some Nightmare Dungeons 100. So the first thing we need to evaluate is the dungeon we're going to do. So we'll go through a few and I will look at them and tell you a little bit about them and how we made our decision. So this is the Inferno Nightmare Dungeon. The dungeon itself is very narrow and we're playing a Sorcerer Rogue combination and we're hit and run. We like to move around a lot. So that's a negative for us since it's not very open. Shadow damage, I do shadow damage, so that's a plus for me. Avenger, monsters do hit pretty hard, so I'll have to be careful. They do do more cold damage. Not a big deal since there's always going to be some sort of damage multiplier. Monster regen, we're going to hit hard, so that won't be too much of an issue. Slowing projectiles or both can evade it. So overall, this one will be an okay dungeon for us to do. Now I'll go and show you a not so great affix. So this one right here gives us thorns. Neither of us plan on getting hit much. Has the suppressor. For getting in and out tactics, this is bad, especially for me. Twisting blades, that'll just disappear because of that. Lightning damage, it's so-so. I lose a lot of poison damage, so I don't want this. And then the slow isn't bad. So not the worst, but not one we would be trying to take. So this is one we absolutely wouldn't do. Sakaro Caverns is a pretty close quarters dungeon. Control and pair explosions is nice for the damage. Drifting Shade, without close quarters everything, it'll be a little bit more of a struggle to dodge. Monster poison damage just adds to the poison damage this dungeon already does. The extra life isn't terrible. Potion breakers with the poison damage, this place will be a struggle to survive, so I would say absolutely not for this one. So I'll go and show you a couple pros and cons of Inferno Forest. So a pro right here, with it being narrow, we are very heavy damage focused with our builds, so we're easily able to clear through mobs and stay connected to get that damage going. So we got a small open room here. We're able to quickly get through it, connect on the big elites, kill, and move on. So now we'll move on to the negative. So one of the negatives right here, we ended up running into this tough combination of elites for the small room to fight with the suppressor, waller, and AoE. Biggest takeaway from that, just make sure you're like looking at the dungeon, what your class is good at, what it's not, and the affixes, what you can handle, what you can't, and pick the best for you. So this is a good example of why paying attention to affixes is important. So these guys, they are poison enchanted and they are throwing down poison, which is doing some damage to us. However, this isn't a poison focused dungeon. We're not getting a lot of extra poison damage. And because we don't have the potion breaker debuff, we're able to heal through it fairly easy with no issues. So a couple things I want to talk about while running a duo. The first is spacing. So notice on the map, we stay pretty close to each other through the hordes. Like we're not on top of each other until like we need to be. So like we had a suppressor come out, so we collapsed on him together, got him killed because he's gonna stop both our damage and it's gonna hurt quite a bit. And it allows us to like efficiently clear mobs for my debuffs to get out on enemies and his. I cast vulnerable just because my vampiric powers and so to see. Here is another good example of why staying close together while doing this. So while traveling close together, he got hit by a bigger mob than we expected. It ended up causing him to die. But since we weren't super spread out, he was in a position to where it was easy for me to clean up and pick him back up, not using one of our 4 revives. So just 2 demonstrations of why staying near each other as a duo is good. So for boss fights as a duo, there isn't really a whole lot special aside from just being able to pick each other up if you need it. Just making sure you're both attacking them so you get your debuffs on it so that they can stack off of each other and just nuking the boss. And once you've killed that, congratulations, you have completed your tier 100 dungeon. So to wrap this video up, just a couple more pointers. So just good thing to do, rule of thumb, talk to your buddy, learn a little bit about their class and what their specialization, what they're doing. So like me and my buddy, we both hit hard, we're both fast moving, but we're squishy. So ideal for us is like hit and run. hit, get out. Whereas if I was playing with like a barbarian that was doing an overpowered build, he'd be able to hit real hard and clear quick, and I could just speed through and get mobs. Two different playstyles for the dungeon. Another thing to kind of like keep in mind is like even though like you've looked at the affixes and what your pros and cons of your classes are, just also look at the dungeons themselves. Like what dungeons are open, what dungeons are more narrow. So like what would be beneficial there. Look at the dungeon itself along with the affixes to make your decision. And really, just do it to have fun. You don't need to farm Nightmare 100s constantly to get good glyphs and the best gear. You can go down a few levels if you're struggling. It's more or less just a good way of seeing how high you can reach. With that said, I've been Fluffy Man. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.